sincerely thank you for being here to discuss your department's 2025.
To do it. You just need to talk to him to get it done.
Public safety and security of this country is our highest priority.
So you didn't answer my question. Do you think 287G program is a good program and should?
I continue to believe that 287G, when executed properly, is a force multiplier for our enforcement efforts.
Hold off the front line to cross.
My constituents are feeling the consequence of this regime.
Thank you. We now recognize Congressman Case.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Secretary.
Just ask that you direct USCIS
patrol agents that you said that the current
To invest in to ensure the security of our board.
A quorum is present pursuant to Rule 3 of the Rules of Procedure and Practice in the Senate. When sitting on impeachment trials, the hour of 1:00 p.m. having arrived and a quorum having been established, the Senate will proceed to consideration of the articles of impeachment against Alejandro N. Mayorkas, Secretary of Homeland Security. At this time, I will administer the oath to all senators in the chamber in conformance with the Article 1, Section 3, Clause 6 of the Constitution and the Senate's impeachment rules. Will all senators now stand and raise their right hands? Do you solemnly swear that in all things appertaining to the trial of the impeachment of Alejandro N. Mayorkas, Secretary of Homeland Security, now pending, you will do impartial justice according to the Constitution and laws, so help you God? The clerk will now call the names in groups of 4. Senators will present themselves at the desk to sign the oath book.
Ms. Baldwin, Mr. Barrasso, Mr. Bennett, Mrs. Blackburn.
Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. All persons are commanded to keep silent under pain of imprisonment while the Senate of the United States is convened as a court of impeachment to consider the articles of impeachment against Alejandro N. Mayorkas, Secretary of Homeland Security.
Madam President.
Senator from Missouri.
Reserving my right to object. To dismiss or table articles of impeachment against Secretary Mayorkas without a trial here today or in committee is an unprecedented move by Senator Schumer. Never before in the history of our republic has the Senate dismissed or tabled articles of impeachment when the impeached individual was alive and had not resigned. As Senator Schumer said in 2020, quote, "A fair trial has witnesses. A fair trial has relevant documents as part of the record. A fair trial seeks the truth. Nothing more, nothing less." I will not assist Senator Schumer in setting our Constitution ablaze and bulldozing 200 years of precedent. Therefore, I object.
Madam President.
Objection is heard.
Madam President, I raise a point of order that Impeachment Article 1 does not allege conduct that rises to the level of a high crime or misdemeanor as required under Article 2, Section 4 of the United States Constitution, and is therefore unconstitutional.
We find ourselves in the awkward position, because we're in impeachment proceedings, of being unable to discuss in public the merits of Senator Schumer's claim, and at the same time, my Democratic friends have refused to go into closed session, so we can't discuss it. So for that reason, Madam President, I move we adjourn this court of impeachment immediately until 12 o'clock noon on Tuesday, April 30th, and I ask for the yeas and nays.
Is there a sufficient second? There is a sufficient second. The clerk will call the roll. On this vote, the yeas are 49, the nays are 51. The motion is not agreed to.
Madam President.
The Republican leader is recognized.
Madam President,
Majority leader is recognized.
I move to adjourn the impeachment trial of Alejandro N. Mayorkas sine die, and I ask for the yeas and nays.
Is there a sufficient second? There is a sufficient second. Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Baldwin. Mr. Barrasso. Mr. Bennett. Did he say aye? Mr. Hickenlooper. Mr. Rono. Mr. Hoven. Mr. Murphy. Mrs. Murray. Mr. Ossoff. Ms. Warren. Mr. Welch. Mr. Whitehouse. Mr. Wicker. Mr. Wyden.
On this vote, the yeas are 51, the nays are 49. The motion is to agree to. The Senate, sitting as the court of impeachment, stands adjourned sine die. Majority leader is recognized.
For the information of members, there are no further votes today. Now, I remind all members that we have very serious business ahead of us in the next few days, and we'll keep you informed as to schedule as things can get scheduled.
To the cloak.
Madam President, we've set a very unfortunate precedent here. This means that the Senate can ignore, in effect, the House's impeachment. It doesn't make any difference whether our friends on the other side thought he should have been impeached or not. He was. And by doing what we just did, we have, in effect, ignored the directions of the House, which were to have a trial. We had no evidence, no procedure. This is a day that's not a proud day in the history of the Senate.
If you want to find her, that would be.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Thanks for being here. It's a busy day on Capitol Hill, as you all know. We're deeply disappointed in the Senate's action. The Senate's action they've just taken on the Mayorkas impeachment proceedings. There should have been a full trial. The American people should have been able to see the evidence and evaluate for themselves what I think they know already intuitively, and that is that Secretary Mayorkas had a fantastical breach of duty. I mean, he breached his constitutional responsibility. He's openly defied the federal law on immigration and the will of Congress. In my view, he has lied on multiple occasions to Congress under oath, and I think he's done it to me when I used to serve on the House Judiciary Committee. In my view, I believe, my evaluation is he's probably the least effective and I think most dangerous in terms of his policy implementations of any cabinet secretary in the history of the United States. And if there's ever been a cabinet secretary that deserved to be impeached, he is that. And the idea that the Senate and under Chuck Schumer's leadership voted on party lines to not even allow the American people to evaluate the evidence is shameful.